She was just an ordinary young woman with ordinary dreams. She wanted a simple life filled with love, laughter, and someone to share it with. She was not chasing riches or fame. She only longed for a partner who would stand by her side no matter what. Her days were quiet, her life steady, until the day she met him. It was not in a grand ballroom or a special event. It was an ordinary afternoon. She had gone about her day as usual. But destiny had its own plans. Their eyes met in the simplest of places, and in that single moment, something shifted. She felt a spark, a gentle pull in her heart. And he felt it too. They began as strangers, then slowly became friends. Their conversations were easy. Their laughter came naturally. He made her feel seen, as if her words mattered, and her silence too. She found herself opening up to him in ways she never had with anyone else. He listened, he cared, and he shared pieces of his own story with honesty. Their bond grew quickly, stronger than either of them expected. Weeks turned into months, and their friendship blossomed into something more. The more time they spent together, the clearer it became that they were meant for each other. They found joy in the little things, walking in the park, sharing meals, talking about their dreams late into the night. She admired his strength and kindness, and he admired her loyalty and courage. Their worlds blended into one. Soon the village began to notice. Neighbors whispered about how inseparable they had become. Friends teased them, saying it was only a matter of time before wedding bells would ring. She would smile shyly, while he would grin proudly, holding her hand a little tighter. For them, it did not matter what others said. What mattered was the love that was growing between them, a love that felt unshakable when he finally asked her to marry him. It was not with expensive rings or fancy words. It was simple, honest, and filled with emotion. He looked into her eyes and said he wanted to spend the rest of his life with her. She did not hesitate. Her answer came quickly, with tears of joy and a smile she could not hide. "Yes," she whispered. And with that one word, their journey began. Their wedding was not grand or filled with luxury. It was small, humble, but filled with love. She walked down the aisle with her heart racing, wearing a dress chosen with care. Not money. The church bells rang, family and friends gathered, and everyone could see the happiness shining in her eyes. He stood at the altar waiting, his face glowing with pride and love when they exchanged vows. They did not just promise each other love. They promised sacrifice, patience, and loyalty. They promised to stand together in laughter and in sorrow, in wealth and in poverty, in strength and in weakness. She believed those words deeply. She believed that their bond was unbreakable. And as she held his hand tightly, she was certain she had found her forever. Their first years of marriage were filled with hope and joy. They built a small home together, filling it with laughter and dreams. They worked hard, shared responsibilities, and supported one another each night. As they sat together after long days, she would smile, knowing she had made the right choice. 10 years stretched ahead of them like a path full of promise. She trusted him completely, never doubting his heart. He was not perfect, and neither was she. But together they felt complete. Every challenge they faced only brought them closer. When she struggled, he lifted her up. And when he stumbled, she gave him strength. Their love was not built on luxury, but on trust and sacrifice. And in that trust, she gave her whole heart. As the years passed, she often remembered their wedding day. The simple vows, the smiles, the tears. She would look at him and think, "This is the man I married, the man I chose, the man who promised forever." She had no idea then what life would bring. No idea how he would one day repay her for all her love and sacrifice. For her, the marriage itself was already the greatest gift. And yet, hidden in the quiet corners of his heart, he was holding on to a plan, a way to show her, years later, that her love had never gone unnoticed. her patience, her loyalty. Her sacrifices, they would not be forgotten. One day, when the time was right, he would repay her in a way that no one could have imagined. For now, she lived in hope, in joy, and in trust, believing that love was enough to carry them through anything. She was a wife, a partner, a friend, and she believed their story was only beginning. She did not know that her faith in him, planted 10 years ago, would bloom into a moment that would leave her stunned and the world around them speechless. The first months of marriage were filled with laughter and dreams. They were young, full of hope, and believed that love alone could conquer anything. But as time passed, reality began to test them. Life outside of romance was harder than they expected. Bills piled up, work became exhausting, and the weight of responsibilities grew heavier each day. He worked long hours trying to provide, while she managed the home and supported him in every way she could. There were nights when he came home tired, his shoulders bent under pressure. She would wait for him with warm food and a gentle smile. Even when she herself was tired, she never complained. Instead, she reminded him that better days would come. Her faith in him never wavered. But money was not the only challenge. They faced disagreements too. Sometimes they argued about small things, expenses, decisions, or misunderstandings. At times, voices were raised, and tears were shed. Yet, after every argument, she was the first to extend her hand. She believed marriage was not about winning or losing, but about holding on. She chose to forgive, even when her pride wanted to hold back. There were days when he doubted himself, when the world felt too heavy. He would sit silently, staring at the floor. Afraid of failing her, she would sit beside him, place her hand on his, and whisper softly, "We will get through this. I believe in you." Those words gave him strength when nothing else could. Her sacrifices grew in ways few people ever noticed. She gave up certain dreams of her own to support his. She had once wanted to travel, to study further, to build a career. But when money was tight, she chose to set aside her ambitions. Instead, she poured her energy into building their home, into making sure he never felt alone. She carried burdens silently, never asking for anything in return. People around them noticed. Some whispered that she was giving too much, that he would never be able to repay her sacrifices, but she never cared about the whispers. She only cared about their bond. For her, love meant giving without expecting, and that is exactly what she did. There were moments when their love was tested in harsher ways. Illness struck once, leaving him bedridden for weeks. She worked day and night, caring for him, cooking, cleaning, and praying. He would look at her with guilt, ashamed of being a burden. But she would smile and say, "You cared for me when I was weak. Now it is my turn." Those words eased his heart. And slowly he recovered as the years went by. She became not only his wife, but also his anchor. When storms of life threatened to tear him down, she stood steady. When opportunities slipped through his fingers, she reminded him that success would come again. And when people doubted him, she became his loudest supporter. Standing tall when he could not, she sometimes felt lonely, especially when he worked long hours or when financial struggles kept them apart emotionally. But even in those lonely nights, she held on, whispering to herself that love was worth every sacrifice. She prayed for strength, for patience, for courage to keep walking beside him. And every morning she woke up ready to give her best again. What she did not know was that her sacrifices were not invisible. He saw them all the nights she stayed awake waiting for him. The meals she cooked even when she was tired. The dreams she buried quietly for his sake. Each act etched itself into his heart. He did not always have the words to thank her, but he carried the weight of gratitude deep inside. Friends sometimes asked her if she regretted choosing a life that seemed so hard. She would only smile and shake her head. "No," she would say. Because I did not marry riches or comfort, I married love. And love is worth it. Her answer silenced them. Because it carried truth, 10 years passed with ups and downs. With victories and defeats, their journey was not perfect. But it was real, and through it all, she never stopped believing in him. She never stopped choosing him, her sacrifices, her patience. Her endless loyalty became the foundation of their marriage. And while she thought her efforts went unnoticed, he was quietly keeping count. Every tear, every smile, every sacrifice. He stored them like treasures in his heart, waiting for the day he could repay her. Waiting for the right moment to show her that her love had never been wasted. Little did she know that the struggle she carried silently for 10 long years would one day return to her as a reward beyond her imagination. For while she gave selflessly, he had been preparing quietly, planning a way to honor her love in a way that would leave her in tears of joy. The years rolled by quietly. From the outside, their life looked ordinary. A small home, simple meals, long days of work, and quiet evenings to neighbors and friends. There was nothing extraordinary about them. They looked like any other couple, living life one day at a time. But hidden beneath the surface, something much greater was unfolding. He had been watching her for years, every sacrifice, every smile she gave despite her own tiredness. Every time she stood beside him when he felt like falling apart, he carried all of it in his heart. It weighed on him not as guilt, but as a promise. A promise to someday repay her for all she had done. She had given him her best years without asking for anything in return. And he silently vowed that he would not let that go unnoticed. At first, he had little to offer. His earnings barely covered the bills. And he struggled to keep up with life's demands. But he was determined. He began working longer hours, taking side jobs, learning new skills. There were nights when he returned home long after she had fallen asleep, his clothes stained with sweat and his body aching. She would ask if he was overworking himself, and he would smile, brushing it off. "I'm fine," he would say, but inside, he was building something for her. She never suspected the truth. She thought his long hours were only for survival. To keep food on the table and the lights on, she never imagined that every coin he saved, every hour he worked, was part of a hidden plan. A plan meant for her. He started a small savings account in secret. Each week, he would set aside a little, sometimes just a few coins, sometimes more. It was not much at first, but he was patient. He knew that time would turn those small amounts into something greater. He guarded that account like a treasure chest, never touching it, never revealing it, waiting for the right moment. But money was only one part of his plan. More than wealth, he wanted to give her recognition. He wanted the world to know the depth of her sacrifice, the beauty of her patience, the strength of her love. So he began writing notes, small letters he kept hidden away. In them, he described everything she had done for him, every sacrifice she had made, every time she gave him hope when he had none. He wanted her to one day read them all and see herself through his eyes. His friends sometimes teased him for being so quiet. They did not know about the savings account, the hidden letters, or the dreams he carried for her. They only saw a man working hard, keeping to himself. But in his silence, he was crafting a future moment that would outshine every hardship they had endured. As the 10th year of their marriage approached, he grew more restless. He could feel the weight of time pressing on him. He had waited long enough. And he wanted the anniversary to be the moment, the day when he would reveal everything. She deserved more than flowers, more than jewelry. She deserved something unforgettable. He began planning in detail each evening after work. When she thought he was simply resting, he was instead preparing. He gathered the notes he had written, organized them, sealed them carefully, and placed them in a wooden box he had carved himself. The box was simple, yet beautiful, and inside it, he placed not only the letters, but also the savings he had built up over the years. It was not a fortune, but it was enough to give her choices. Choices she had given up for him. She noticed him acting strange as the anniversary grew closer. Sometimes he smiled to himself. Sometimes he looked at her as if holding back words he could not yet say. She teased him about it, asking if he was planning a surprise. He only laughed, shaking his head. "You'll see," he said softly. His eyes, however, gave away the truth. Something was coming, something big. He worked harder than ever in those final months, pushing himself to exhaustion. But the thought of her smile, the look of joy he imagined on her face, kept him going. It was not about proving himself to the world. It was about proving to her that her love had not been wasted, that her sacrifices had not gone unseen, and so, quietly, carefully, and with great determination, he built his mysterious plan. Piece by piece, day by day, for 10 long years. She had given him everything without asking for repayment. Now, he was ready to give her back more than she ever expected. The night before their anniversary, he stayed awake long after she had fallen asleep. He sat in the dim light, the wooden box on the table before him. His hands traced the carvings, his eyes wet with emotion. Tomorrow, he thought, tomorrow she will know. She will finally see what she means to me, and so the stage was set. After 10 years of quiet sacrifice and silent gratitude, the mysterious plan was ready to be revealed. A plan that would not only repay her, but also remind the world what true love and devotion really look like. Asterisk, the morning of their 10th wedding anniversary arrived quietly. The sun rose as it always did. Birds sang. And the world moved forward unaware that this day would mark a turning point in their lives. She woke up thinking it would be just another simple day. She expected maybe a smile from him, perhaps a warm embrace, maybe even flowers, if he remembered. But she never imagined the surprise he had been preparing for a decade. He watched her that morning as she moved through the house. Her hair slightly messy, her steps soft. She had given him 10 years of her life. 10 years of patience, sacrifice, and love. His chest tightened with emotion. Today was the day he would finally repay her. Not with gold or diamonds, but with something far greater. He told her he had planned a small gathering. Just family and close friends. She smiled. Thinking it was sweet but ordinary, she did not know he had invited everyone who mattered. People who had witnessed their journey, people who had seen her sacrifices, yet never understood the depth of them. He wanted the world to finally see her the way he saw her. By evening, their modest home was filled with warmth. Laughter echoed, food was shared, and the air buzzed with celebration. She felt grateful, but still wondered why he looked so restless. His eyes sparkled with a secret she could not yet uncover. Then, as the clock struck the hour, he stood, his voice steady but filled with emotion. 10 years ago, this woman married me, he began. Everyone fell silent, turning toward him. She gave me not just her love, but her entire life. She sacrificed her dreams for mine. She carried me through struggles. And she believed in me when no one else did. She lowered her head, embarrassed by the attention, but he gently reached for her hand, lifting it as though presenting her to the room. His eyes glistened. For 10 years, I've been waiting for this moment. To show her what she means to me, he turned and lifted the wooden box from the table, carved with care, polished with love. He placed it in her hands. She looked at it with surprise, her fingers trembling as she opened the lid. Inside were dozens of sealed envelopes, letters written in his handwriting, and a bundle of savings carefully tied with ribbon. Her eyes filled with tears as she pulled out the first letter. Her hands shook as she unfolded it. His words spilled out across the paper memories of her sacrifices. Moments he had noticed, the nights she had stayed awake, the dreams she had buried, the strength she had given him. Each letter was a reminder that nothing she had done had ever gone unseen. The family gasped. Some cried, others smiled. No one had expected this. The children in the room looked on in awe, realizing they were witnessing something rare. A man honoring his wife in a way that went beyond gifts. Beyond celebration, it was love laid bare for the world to see. She clutched the letters to her chest, her tears streaming freely. "I didn't know you saw all this," she whispered. He smiled gently. "I saw everything. And I will spend the rest of my life showing you that your love was never wasted." Then he gestured toward the savings. "This is not much compared to what you deserve," he said. "But it is my way of giving you back some of the dreams you set aside. If you want to study again, if you want to travel, if you want to chase the dreams you gave up for me, now you can." The room erupted in applause. Family and friends wiped their eyes. Some whispered that they had never seen such devotion. Others said this was what true love looked like. The air was filled with emotion. Heavy, yet beautiful, she hugged him tightly. Her heart overflowing. For 10 years she had given without asking. And now, in one moment, everything had been returned to her with love multiplied. She realized then that marriage was not about perfection, but about patience. About waiting for the right time when love speaks louder than words. The celebration continued, but for her, the world had stopped. She sat with the box of letters in her lap, each one a reminder of her worth. She knew now that the man she had married 10 years ago had not only loved her, silently, but had also been planning to honor her all along. That night, when the guests were gone and the house was quiet, she whispered to him, "This is the greatest gift anyone could give me." He kissed her forehead gently. "No," he replied, "the greatest gift was you." And so, their 10th anniversary became more than a celebration of years together. It became a symbol of gratitude. A moment that reminded everyone present that true love is not measured in wealth, but in loyalty, sacrifice, and the courage to repay with sincerity.